News with Gina.
The News with Gina Grad.
As the caller earlier alluded to, this just came just across the wire as the show started. This from ABC7. Governor Gavin Newsom out here in California laid out early guidance for much of the state to move further into reopening in the next coming weeks. This was just as we started today. The criteria announced Monday by Newsom applies to counties that want to reopen faster, and that's going to be like 53 out of 58 counties that could meet this new criteria. What's the new criteria? Well, of course, they're getting rid of the 0 deaths in 2 weeks and 1 case per 10,000 over 14 days. They realized that was fairly unreasonable. No counties will have to meet that threshold. They can have up to 25 cases per 100,000 residents or no higher than 8% positive rates among people tested for the virus. They also must have no higher than a 5% increase in hospitalization over a 7-day period. The governor added live professional sports may be allowed to resume as early as the first week of June. Hair salons may be able to reopen. Local restrictions may be more strict depending on your county versus what the state wants, but they realized they needed to do some rejiggering.
How do you think the basketball season is going to work? Is there anything left? Can we salvage the basketball season? I mean, obviously
June is when they typically have the finals. You know what I mean? So they're pretty behind at this point.
I got to tell you, there are things that come, unexpected things, like they have the UFC with no crowd, right? But there's an interesting thing that is happening is you can hear those punches landing now. Like it sounds, they have taken their violence and ratcheted it up. If you didn't think that choking guys out and throwing spinning heel kicks to guys' orbital sockets could seem more violent, now in silence, hearing the slap, I mean the smack of somebody just throwing a wheel kick and hitting a guy in the cheek, it made it so much more visceral now than it was when it was, the crowd was cheering. You really couldn't hear the contact. So something weirdly satisfying for those fight fans has come out of the 0 crowd.
Although I wonder, is that going to backfire because it's going to seem so stark and grim after a while? You're just hearing the punishment.
Joyless.
Really like, I don't want to hear this anymore. Like, these guys are really getting hurt. Like, this is brutal. I don't know.
It might also... they always say hometown decisions. They do a fight in Brazil. A guy's a Brazilian fighter. An American guy goes into Brazil. They'll get their hand raised on maybe it's going to reduce the home cooking.
Well, home court advantage based on whatever sport. Obviously, the crowd's not there. You mentioned Adam being quietly satisfying. The NBA, I could give a shit about. They could, they're $1 million athletes. They're going to be fine. Maybe it's better for them if they don't, some of the older guys did start up again. The one thing I would like to see, it's not going to happen. It would be so satisfying is the NCAA tournament, the March Madness, if they could do that in June or July, because for 95% of those kids, that's the last basketball they're ever going to play. You know what I mean? They got the tournament taken away from them, their senior year or whatever it was. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It feels so unsatisfying for these kids.
Yeah. They should have an all-senior tournament, but with what's been going on in nursing homes, I think we're going to have to change the title. No, he's 22. I heard senior.
Senior high risk.
Don't want to get any closer to that now.
Comorbidities.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep talking about sports, and I'll tell you a few other things that are going to be modified. Major League Baseball is working on new safety rules, and it looks like they're going to ban spitting, chewing sunflower seeds, giving high fives, if and when baseball returns. Also, players and other teams' personnel not participating in the game itself will have to sit in the stands, separated by at least 6 feet.
Really?
So they can't sell out the stadium?
No, not for a good while, I think.
God.
No,
it'll literally just be, administrative staff, and anyone who's not playing doesn't hang out on the field.
The forearm bash is coming back, baby.
Yeah. The Bash Brothers.
Yeah.
We have I think we have the beginning of the Man Show pro wrestling clip here. Here we go. See our characters.
Get any better than this. You know, the only thing missing from you two is a persona.
A persona? Yeah,
some ideas.
Like a persona.
The Rabbi.
You thought I should kick your ass?
The alcoholic father.
Boy!
The male flight attendant. The Pope. Flapjack.
I'm talking a complete breakfast.
The drummer from Whitesnake. The calligrapher. And ostrich sack.
Capacity crowd on hand for this tag team.
The calligrapher and ostrich sack are going.
Yeah, and that's where he blew his back out in an ostrich sack costume.
I think he did, yeah. Also, it'd always be funny because, like, we'd have these serious arguments with the executives at Comedy Central. Like, if you're only going to budget $800 for a giant scrotum sack, we're not going to do the bit. We're not going to insult our audience. It's insulting to the viewer. Okay? Where are you guys? Can we pretend we're professional for 10 minutes and work on a real ostrich sack here? Like, you have all those conversations all the time, and they'd have an argument with Debbie Liebling about the ostrich sack, and Dan will be like, Adam, you talk to her about the ostrich sack. She'll listen to you.
That's funny.
All I remember Jimmy's probably still angry at me because we would shoot these bits. The wrestling camp is in like Pomona, California or something. We'd go to like Pomona to the wrestling camp and we'd be shooting all day. I had to do Loveline every single night. So if Pomona was an hour and 15 minutes away from Loveline, I had a hard out. It was like 8:35. I had to be in my car driving. And the last scene we shot was Jimmy being flipped onto his back. And if you actually see it, Max Patty, you can see that Jimmy wasn't acting. He got flipped onto his back and really fucked up. And I was walking past him. Like, I was doing this thing where I was getting dressed real fast and like running out the door, and they were flipping Jimmy, and Jimmy was laying on his back, writhing in pain. And I just went, all right, I'll see you in the office. And I just ran right past him. And I think he's still angry about it. We have ostrich sack being slung on his back.
Oh, sorry, we closed it where we had a reopening script.
Sorry.
We'll
sorry. Go ahead, Gina. Sorry.
All right. Well, let's take a quick departure from things that are opening and closing and being modified, because we do these every once in a while. Bob Dylan, again, raising eyebrows over whether or not one of his songs is an original composition. The song in question is called False Prophet. It's from his new album called Rough and Rowdy Ways, which will be out June 19th. Now, according to NPR, the song, and I'm going to quote NPR, the song sits in the same tempo and key as Billy Emerson's 1954 recording of If Lovin' Is Believing. It faithfully replicates the rhythm guitar phrase, leans on the same lead guitar for the punctuation. There are a couple of crucial tweaks or modifications. Dylan truncates the form to 10 measures instead of 12 and shortens one measure from 4 beats to 2. But I want you to hear this because it's pretty damn close. Here's the first, say, 30 seconds of the Dylan song, the new one.
Another day that don't end, another ship going out, another day of anger, bitterness, and doubt. I know how it happened.
Right, that's the first one.
All right.
And it swings, right? It's a good song. So maybe he had a little inspiration from Billy Emerson. Here's the original.
You've been so deceiving. Tell me, when are you leaving? When you go, won't you set me free? I haven't been my best, but but you made such a mess.
There's two arguments. One is it's the same song. The other is it sounds like every song that would play in any strip club in any 60s movie. Like there's only so many instruments, so many chords. I don't know, Pat, do you feel that way when you feel like someone goes, that guy ripped your joke off? I have the same. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it depends. Again, a lot of people, you know this, that outside of comedy, they don't really understand how the creation process is. You can both cover the same subject, but there are specific words and phraseology where you're like, well, that is that guy's thing. It's a case by case thing. I think in this case, this is a lot like when Elvis Costello does live concerts. In the middle of his songs, he'll play the song that he took parts from for his new song. He'll do that. Like if he does Oliver's Army in the middle, he'll play ABBA's Dancing Queen and go, same piano, so
it is the same piano.
Exact same piano. Yeah.
Right.
Right. But a lot of artists, I mean, I don't know if this is a George Harrison, My Sweet Lord situation where he didn't realize he was ripping off the chord progression.
Or whatever. My Sweet.
Or he's trying.
She's so fine. Right.
Yeah. But with Bob Dylan, maybe he's either doing an homage or he's like, this is a reference for people that know. I mean, look at all the stuff that Tarantino takes from other films to put in his film and does it. So, I mean, again, each is its own case, and I'm not supporting thievery or borrowing. In this case, I don't know enough about music. I know enough about comedy to know thievery when I see it.
Well, but also Bob Dylan's been accused of this before, right? Like, I don't think this is the first time.
Yeah, well, there were lyrics from a song that didn't he take from a Japanese poem or something like that? Or
I have to look it up, but that might be it.
I mean, absolutely, Sweet Marie has a lyric that's a line of dialogue from the movie The Lineup, this noir film from the 50s. So, it just depends on how are we using it, what are we putting in there.
Right.
I agree. And to that, I say, get her done. That's my thing, Patton. That's my new thing. I don't know if you heard me do it at the Improv the other night. It's pretty
good. That'll catch on, man. I think you could put that on a beer koozie or a hat. I'm telling you, man.
Oh, yeah.
The audience can shout it back at you.
Get her done. That's my thing.
There it is.
Spread the word. Oh, we have Jimmy getting flopped on his back in his giant scrotum.
Oh, God.
Outfit.
Here we go.
Yeah. Not acting.
Mustard Shack has a steel chair.
Oh, and now I've seen it all.
Did you get him? You get him.
Now everyone's getting into the act.
It's pandemonium.
Well, we learned a lot today.
That was him being slammed.
Yeah, that first one, he was in pain.
Yes, he was in pain.
God. Oh, poor guy.
Well, that's the other thing I would always kind of tell people, too. Like, when you film stuff, if you, like you say, oh, these pampered celebrities or whatever, but if you're in a movie where you're standing in a swamp, you're just standing in a swamp all day. And if you go to wrestling camp, it's a comedy bit, and you get your ass kicked. Like, we got our ass kicked all day at wrestling camp. Yes.
I was talking to, this is I'm going to drop a name, but I did a movie with Tom Hanks, and I was talking to him about went on a Christmas holiday to like Greece or something, and one of his kids was doing like an archaeological dig, like this really cool thing. He goes, I'd love to go do that. And, and he just spent all day with a brush, like 12 hours in the sun, just brushing dust off a fragment of urn, like just doing that. And he goes, it was so relaxing and so zen, and I loved it. And then we're going back on the boat, and one of the young archaeologists was like, man, it's a lot harder than like, doing a few hours on a movie. And then, and Tom was like, yeah, but I only had to do that once. Right. Like a lot of times on a movie, it's the repetition over and over and over. It can just drive. And again, I'm not complaining. But there is an element of you're all into one physical movement, and they go, okay, we need 4 different angles on this. You know what I mean? Like, that can be a little crazy.
Brian, you were saying?
I might be getting the details wrong, so please give me a break. It's off the top of my head. You mentioned actors, if you're in a swamp, you're in a swamp. Wasn't Patton Oswalt fished out of a swamp in Magnolia?
Well, that fortunately was a body double. What was not a body double in Big Fan when I'm getting my ass kicked in the strip club. Right. I made the close-up of my face pressed against the floor of the strip club. That is my face pressed against the nastiest carpeting ever while I'm getting my ass kicked, like literally right here in a strip club that they only close for like a 3-hour window to get that stuff in. So there was stuff going on before and stuff going on after, and me just pressed against the floor of a strip club. I feel like I'm patient zero for the coronavirus, quite frankly.
Well,
sure, I picked up something there.
And the other aspect of it is you say to the guy who's smashing your face against the strip club floor or the pro wrestler, you say to him, don't go easy because I don't want to do this 5 times. Because if he goes soft, you'll do it 5 times. If he really puts his boot into you, you can do it. So it's like this weird thing where you're actually telling them to hurt you or throw a real punch or do it real. Otherwise, we have to do it again if you go too soft.
Yeah, it's like exactly. Yeah, you don't want to have to go through the motion again and again and again, because sometimes that's where the injury can happen. It's just doing something over and over again. That's why I think, wasn't Chevy Chase addicted to pain pills for because of all of the pratfalls he did on SNL really messed his back up.
They say the same about Jerry Lewis. They said he was jacked up from doing the big flips off the pianos and everything.
Yeah.
Big fan. How about everyone loved that movie? It was an independent movie that Patton starred in. It's been 10 years. It's been a while.
I think a little more than 10 years. Yeah.
And did you wrote it, right?
No. The guy who wrote it and directed it is the guy who wrote The Wrestler.
Wow.
The script Big Fan is what he was passed around for Hollywood for like 10 years. It was a really good script that never could get made. It was originally called Paul Alfiero, and the script got him so much buzz that's how he got the job writing The Wrestler. And then the money he took for writing The Wrestler, he then put into getting Big Fan made.
Oh, do you think the calligrapher could have gotten a gig in that wrestler?
In The Wrestler?
Robert D. Siegel is the name, so says Chris.
Big Fan is streaming on Amazon Prime if people want to check it out.
It's a great film. I do remember, though, when our distributor put it out on DVD, on the DVD cover, it's me and Kevin Corrigan cheering at a football game. It looks like we're in the stand cheering, but we never actually go to a football game where we are always watching it in the parking lot. And we're like, why is this the cover of the DVD? We don't go to it. And the guy's like, people like sports. They'll probably rent it. Like, well, I'm like, but there's no sports in the. What are you doing? Why don't you put RoboCop on the cover if that's what you're gonna do? Like, it was the weirdest. Man, people rent it. They think there's sports in it.
Right. I had the same thing when the Hammer came out. They had like the sexy girl silhouette in the back and stuff like that. It's like that's not in the movie at all. It's like, yeah, but people like chicks.
They like it. Put it in there. Who cares?
Right. Well, it's like Patton famously said at one point, you'll go see a Jennifer Aniston movie or some sort of a rom-com if the trailer's just 3 minutes of a monkey shitting.
Yeah, because like Jennifer Aniston had hit a point where it's like, well, people just go see her movies. They like rom-coms. They like her. So why do they bother wasting money on a trailer? Just film a monkey in a Napoleon outfit with just explosive diarrhea and then just go Jennifer Aniston, and then the date that it's up, people go, yeah, I'll go see that. Like, it doesn't matter.
All right, Gina, what else? You got one more?
All right. Yeah, sure. We'll do one more. You got it. So you may have heard about this tourist in Hawaii that has gotten arrested, and this is becoming, I'm not going to say common, but this is not a one-off. So, Brian, you need to be careful if you're going to Hawaii this summer.
I probably have some info on this, but go ahead.
All right, very good. So this tourist from New York was arrested in Hawaii after he posted beach pictures on Instagram when he was supposed to be in quarantine. Why was he supposed to be in quarantine? Well, this 23-year-old was arrested for violating Hawaii's mandatory 14-day quarantine rule. Once you get off the plane, you go to your hotel and you sit there for a fortnight. So he arrived in Oahu and quickly posted pictures on the beach and messing around. And he allegedly used public transportation in an effort to stop the spread of the virus. The state requires you to self-quarantine for 14 days without leaving your hotel room. They're required to fill out a document acknowledging that if they violate that, you could be punishable with a $5,000 fine, up to a year in prison. And, I think they've reported like 638 cases, 17 deaths, but it's an island and they want to, control what's going on. Ryan, do you have any insight?
One of Christie's clients at her company is Hawaii Traveler Tourism, or whatever it's called, and so she has daily phone calls with them. The Hawaii. Hawaii is strict. Like they're coming up with the rules about like if you leave they're making hotel keys now that only work once. So if you leave your hotel room, you have to go back to the lobby and recheck in and tell them where you've been and stuff like that. Like they are taking it extraordinarily seriously.
Well, it's an island. It's a very precarious ecosystem. Even without the coronavirus, you go to Hawaii, they check anything organic you're bringing in or out because that can devastate a habitat like that. So, if you want it, and right now, if you want to go to Hawaii, please go and enjoy it, but don't be a dick. Yeah. You got to follow the rules, man.
Well, how would it possibly work? First off, I would spend all 2 weeks in my room raising murder hornets. And then when I got to the 2-week period, I would yell, "Do my bidding, my little pretties," and the door would fly open and a huge flock of murder hornets would fly out.
A cloud over your head.
Yeah. And then I would yell at King Kamehameha, "I couldn't have gone snorkeling. Well, now you have this." Is there a person that is going, and these quarantines this is going on in other states and other places as well. It's not just Hawaii, but who would go to this other state or this other place and stay in a hotel room for 2 weeks? Isn't everyone going to break the rule? Is there anyone who could even afford, from a money standpoint or a time standpoint, to go to Hawaii, stay in your room for 2 weeks, and then go hit the sand? It's like anyone who showed up, I would call a liar. I mean, nobody's going to. Who's going to?
Yeah.
1 week, like you could do 4 days, maybe a week. 2 weeks, the average length of the stay is 9 days when you go to Hawaii. So anyone who shows up is going to break the rules, but you shouldn't document it like this guy did.
Well, and that's such a common thing. I mean, that's how everybody gets busted on everything. It's not because some guy was hiding in the bushes with a telephoto lens. It's because some dipshit has his own selfie and posts it. I mean, everybody just turns themselves in every day.
We don't have a reasonable, measured fear of cameras and the like. Like I've said it many times. Like you walk, the second they started putting cameras up in 7-Elevens, you would have thought, well, there'll be no more robberies at 7-Eleven. We can see the guy walking in. I can see what he looks like. We can see the license plate on his car. Oh no, they went up 30%. Like, why don't cameras, or cops, even cops shooting people, you'd think like, well, if they got the camera on, the dash camera's going, or people taking pictures and throwing themselves up. Yes.
Ring doorbell should have been the end of Porch Pirates. But here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
you're right. I think people get used to things quicker than we think they will.
The camera thing has always been weird to me that we just it is not it's not persuading people to do the right thing or not to do the right thing. Speeding cameras don't slow people down. Surveillance cameras don't get people. They have the Ring doorbell. Although I think the Ring doorbell cameras, at least here in Los Angeles, when the cops announce we're not doing jack shit, you want to deputize your neighbor and get a fucking posse going and go on your own, knock yourself out. We're not doing. That's probably emboldened the people who are stealing all this shit on everyone's door. All right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you said what I was going to say. It was perfect.
Yeah, who cares how much footage there is of you engaging in illegal behavior if no one ever shows up to get you? Right. Let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.